Hi, Peter Charles here, Folks for Life Fly Fishing. And today I'd like to talk to you about a problem that we can get into when we're tying floss bodies. It's called color bleed through. And what happens is the color of the thread we're using bleeds through the floss when it gets wet. It's a problem where the thread is dark and the floss is light. So I've got a hook on the vise right now, and it's a shiny hook. I used a stainless steel hook. So you can see it's the thread doing it, not the color of the hook. We're going to wet half of it and you're going to see the result. It's a chartreuse floss over black thread, and I'm going to wet part of it. So as you can see, the back end starts to muddy up, and this effect will get worse as longer it spends in the water. And you're starting to lose the luster in the color. So it's a problem anytime you're putting light over dark. Now, sometimes it can be an advantage. I've got one fly that I put white floss over red thread, and it came through like a bloody purple, and it turned out to be a devastating panfish fly. So sometimes it works for you. But if you don't want that effect, you have to be aware of it. Okay, now put another hook in the vise. And the difference between these two is one I use black thread and the other one I use the same color thread as the floss. Now when we get it wet, so as you can see, the one with the chartreuse thread is retained its color. It hasn't changed at all, where the one that's over black thread has gone muddy, and you've lost some of the shine off of it. So what that means is if you're going to tie a floss body, be aware of the thread you're using and the effect it's going to have when it gets wet. There are ways around this. I mean, if you want to have a black head, but then you want to tie with a light colored thread to avoid the bleed through problem, you've got two choices. First, of course, you can use black head cement, and that works just fine. But probably the simplest way, I'll just tie on some thread here. And just take a marker and just color the thread black, or any other color. You have a red marker, a yellow marker, blue marker, whatever color marker you want. Now when I wind this on, I've got a black head. So it's a very, very simple approach. You can use a light colored thread. In fact, what I've seen with some of the expert tiers that tie these very complex salmon and steelhead patterns is they use a white thread for everything. And then they just use markers to color the thread when they get done. That way, whatever color material they put on, the color stays true when it gets wet, and there's no bleed through from a black thread that's underneath. So give that some thought when you're doing a floss body. You've got two choices. You go with a light colored thread or a same colored thread so your colors remain true, or we play around with it a little bit. We put a floss over a different color thread so when it gets wet it takes on another color. And there's a subtleness and a nuance to sometimes those colors that can get quite interesting. So keep that in mind. Just don't grab your first spool of black thread, start tying it on, throw stuff on there and say, oh, it looks wonderful. And then when you get it wet, it looks rather muddy and dull. So keep that in mind. Floss color bleed through. When they get wet, just be aware of it and pick your colors accordingly. Cheers.